You said you'd fly with another pilot, but not me?
Yeah.
Flight 403
Last choice.
to New York.
You thought you knew everything about the A-Team? These 10 true behind-the-scenes secrets will change the way you see the show forever.
Come on, man! Hannibal's got this whole thing locked down!
Fact 1.
Nobody put their hands on my mother and lived to tell about it. We're going to Chicago right now, Hannibal.
Mr. T quickly became the breakout star of the A-Team, and NBC knew it. While George Peppard was the leading man on paper, Mr. T became the face of the franchise. After the first season, Mr. T was paid more than any other cast member. He earned roughly $80,000 per episode at his peak, more than Peppard or Dirk Benedict. This created tension on set, especially between Peppard and Mr. T. Peppard reportedly didn't like being upstaged by a wrestler-turned-actor. Mr. T, meanwhile, had become a cultural icon thanks to Rocky III and his gold chains. Children loved him, adults quoted him, and NBC doubled down on marketing him. He was given the most merchandise, from lunchboxes to action figures. Mr. T once said, "I don't need acting classes, I've got attitude." Peppard, a classically trained actor, didn't appreciate that mindset. The tension escalated to the point that the two barely spoke off camera. Benedict confirmed in interviews that the set was often divided into factions. Despite the drama, they maintained professionalism during filming. Mr. T's charisma made him the natural center of attention. He became the reason many kids tuned in each week. By season 3, marketing focused almost entirely on him. He even received personal security at fan events due to his overwhelming popularity. NBC executives once considered spinning off his character into a solo series. Though it never happened, Mr. T's dominance behind the scenes was undeniable. Fact 2.
You're not smart enough to be angry. You're just mean and stupid.
George Peppard brought experience and charisma to the role of Hannibal, but behind the scenes, he had a reputation for being difficult. He demanded script changes and often clashed with producers. Peppard felt the show should be more serious and less comedic. He reportedly resented the increasing focus on Mr. T crew members, said he would storm off set when unhappy with his lines. Peppard also argued with directors over camera angles and blocking. He once refused to film a scene because he disliked a minor wardrobe change. His behavior became so frequent that production had to adjust schedules around him. Dirk Benedict described working with Peppard as challenging but worthwhile. Peppard's background in film made him see TV as a step down. He often referred to the A-Team as a paycheck job. Despite the friction, his performance remained consistently strong. He was protective of the show's image and resisted product placement. Peppard did, however, mentor younger cast members in acting technique. He had a soft spot for the crew and often brought coffee to grips and gaffers. Over time, tensions with other actors mellowed slightly, but he never fully accepted the show's campy tone. He retired from acting shortly after the show ended. His legacy remains complex but vital to the A-Team's success. Fact 3.
Gee, you know, if I'd known you're going to bring us someplace nice like this, I would have dressed for the occasion.
Very funny.
The character of Face was originally played by a different actor in the unaired pilot. That actor was Tim Dunnigan, who had a very different energy than Dirk Benedict. NBC felt Dunnigan looked too young to be believable as a Vietnam veteran. He was only 28 at the time and had a boyish appearance. Test audiences reportedly didn't connect with his version of Face. The producers wanted someone with more edge and charisma. Dirk Benedict, fresh off his role as Starbuck in Battlestar Galactica, was their first choice. He brought charm, confidence, and a roguish attitude to the character. Benedict immediately clicked with the rest of the cast, except Peppard at first. He also embraced the humor and absurdity of the series. Dunnigan later said he understood the decision and held no grudge. He went on to appear in other shows but never landed a breakout role. Benedict's portrayal became iconic and heavily influenced the show's tone. His on-screen chemistry with the team added emotional depth to the episodes. The role allowed Benedict to showcase both comedic timing and dramatic range. His real-life personality was reportedly very close to Face's. He even improvised many of his lines. Producers praised him for adapting quickly and taking control of the role. It's hard to imagine the A-Team without Dirk Benedict's version of Face, and yet it nearly happened. Fact 4.
I'd love some artillery. A 105 would be beautiful.
Despite its over-the-top action, the A-Team had surprisingly authentic elements. The producers hired real military consultants to help with accuracy. These included former Army and Marine personnel who reviewed scripts and stunt sequences. Their job was to ensure that tactics, terminology, and uniforms looked correct. This added a layer of realism beneath the explosions and car flips. Many of the weapons used were real, though deactivated. The military vehicles were often surplus equipment from previous wars. Episodes involving Vietnam flashbacks were based on true events. The consultants advised on how missions would be structured in real life. Even the team's gear, like BA's tools and Hannibal's disguises, had basis in real field operations. The crew filmed some episodes on decommissioned military bases. Technical advisors were present during those shoots to supervise. They also trained actors in basic military etiquette and movement. This helped to give the illusion that the team had real combat experience. Even Mr. T took part in the drills to better embody BA's discipline. The show's creators wanted it to feel grounded despite the fantasy. While explosions were exaggerated, tactics like infiltration and evasion were true to form. Fans in the military often praised the show for its surprising respect toward veterans. It was entertainment, but with a layer of informed structure beneath the chaos. That authenticity helped set it apart from other action series. Fact 5. The A-Team van is one of the most iconic vehicles in TV history, but its signature black and red look wasn't the original plan. Early designs showed a tan and brown van, closer to camouflage. NBC executives felt it looked too bland for merchandising. Producers experimented with several color combos before settling on black and metallic gray. The red stripe was added last to give it speed and style. The distinctive red wheels were chosen to make the van instantly recognizable. Multiple vans were used for filming, each built for specific stunts. Some had reinforced bumpers, others had hollowed-out interiors for camera rigs. At least 6 identical vans were in rotation during peak seasons. One was even remote-controlled for certain action scenes. Fans began requesting tours of the van at public events. Universal Studios eventually displayed a replica on their backlot tour. The van's design became so iconic that it was replicated in toy form, lunchboxes, and posters. Even today, it remains one of the most recognizable vehicles in pop culture. In 2010, a replica appeared in the A-Team reboot film. Mr. T once said, "The van was like the 5th member of the team. It was more than transportation. It was a character in its own right. And to think, it almost looked like an army delivery truck." Fact 6. On screen, Bia Baracus famously hated flying, and that fear wasn't just acting. Mr. T himself disliked air travel and preferred driving to set locations. The writers leaned into his real fear and made it part of the character. Every episode involving a plane had to creatively knock him out. They used milk, gas, sleeping pills, even tranquilizer darts. Fans began looking forward to each week's new excuse. Mr. T's fear wasn't irrational, he simply didn't trust aircraft maintenance. He once said in an interview, "If God meant for me to fly, he would have put wings on me." He even requested train or van transport for press events. Despite this, he occasionally flew when it couldn't be avoided. Producers respected his discomfort and tried to accommodate him when possible. The in-show joke became a signature gag. Writers found increasingly outrageous ways to make BA unconscious. It allowed for humor without compromising the character's toughness. Mr. T said the routine helped him bond with the audience. He believed the fear made BA more human and relatable. His reluctance to fly became one of the show's most memorable running jokes. Even decades later, fans still quote his lines about planes. What started as a personal fear became TV gold, and it was always strangely based on truth. Fact 7. Despite its popularity, the A-Team was actually banned or censored in several countries. Sweden and New Zealand restricted its airing due to the show's depiction of violence. Regulators were concerned about the show's influence on children. Even though no one ever seemed to die in the explosions, the action was constant. Episodes often featured dozens of car crashes and shootouts. Critics called it cartoon violence that glamorized conflict. Australia moved it to later time slots to avoid younger viewers. Germany aired it with on-screen disclaimers warning about unrealistic behavior. The show's PG tone didn't always translate across borders. Yet ironically, the series was a huge hit in Eastern Europe. It aired repeatedly behind the Iron Curtain as Western action fantasy. In countries like Hungary and Poland, it was a symbol of American cool. Even banned episodes found their way onto bootleg VHS tapes. Mr. T's image became iconic around the world regardless. Licensing rules were often stricter than the content itself. One episode involving fake passports caused a temporary block in Canada. Despite all this, the show remained a global brand. Censorship only added to its mystique in some places. Sometimes being too explosive just made it more attractive. And that was exactly the kind of publicity NBC didn't mind. Fact 8. In Season 4, the producers seriously considered doing a musical episode. They were inspired by the success of similar experiments in other TV shows. Writers drafted a script involving undercover work at a recording studio. Each cast member would sing as part of the mission. Mr. T was the first to veto the idea completely. He refused to sing, claiming BA doesn't do jazz hands. George Peppard also disliked the idea and thought it would ruin the show's tone. Only Dirk Benedict was open to it. He even had a musical theater background. NBC ultimately shelved the script after internal backlash. Footage from the pitch meeting reportedly still exists in network archives. Some songs were recorded as demos but never released. The storyline involved a corrupt music executive and weaponized sound waves. It was intentionally campy and over the top. Had it been made, it would have been the strangest episode of the series. The idea was briefly revived during Season 5, but quickly dropped again. Fans today debate whether it would have been hilarious or a disaster. No other episode pushed the creative envelope that far. It remains one of the most unusual ideas ever proposed for the ATeam. Even in syndication, there's no trace of the musical scenes. But somewhere in a vault, BA almost had a solo. Fact 9.
Let's do it.
The ATeam was famous for its over-the-top explosions, and most of them were real. There was minimal CGI at the time, so they relied on practical effects. Pyrotechnic teams worked full-time to deliver weekly fireballs. Each explosion was choreographed and timed down to the second. The crew often used gasoline-filled containers to amplify blasts. Safety measures were tight, but the risks were very real. One stuntman suffered burns during a car flip gone wrong. Another broke a leg after being thrown by a mistimed detonation. Most of the debris was made of foam or rubber for safety, but the heat and shock waves were completely authentic. Sound stages sometimes rattled during outdoor explosions. Nearby businesses filed noise complaints more than once. Filming permits had to specify explosion size and frequency. Local fire departments were always on standby. The stunt crew wore fire-resistant suits for certain shots. Cast members were kept far from danger zones. Mr. T, however, sometimes insisted on standing closer for realism. The show became known in Hollywood for the most bangs per episode. Its explosive style set a new bar for TV action sequences, and every single one was pulled off without digital effects. Fact 10.
You got a union card?
No. This is my union card.
Hey, now easy.
In Season 5, the ATeam underwent a major format change to revive falling ratings. Instead of being fugitives, the team began working for a secret government agency. The character of General Stockwell, played by Robert Vaughn, was introduced to oversee them. Episodes shifted from guerrilla-style missions to international espionage plots. The tone became darker and more serialized. Stockwell would assign missions, and the team had to obey. This stripped the characters of their freedom and rebellious charm. Many fans disliked the change, feeling it lost the show's spirit. The iconic van appeared less frequently, replaced by jets and high-tech labs. Even the team's wardrobe became more formal and subdued. NBC hoped the change would refresh the formula and attract new viewers. But longtime fans began tuning out in response. Ratings continued to decline despite the reboot attempt. Behind the scenes, the cast felt the show was no longer theirs. George Peppard reportedly hated the new direction. Mr. T expressed disappointment with the loss of humor. Even Dirk Benedict called the season soulless in interviews. The 5th season ended with no formal series finale. Just like that, the A-Team disbanded without closure, and fans have debated that shift ever since. Bonus fact. Believe it or not, the U.S. military once referenced the A-Team in real operational planning. In the mid-1980s, Special Forces units began jokingly calling rogue field units A-Teams when they operated autonomously. The nickname stuck within some units, even appearing in unofficial mission reports. Ironically, the term A-Team already existed in Army Special Forces, used for 12-man operational detachment alphas. But after the show aired, soldiers began using the term more loosely to describe elite, unconventional teams. The show's popularity had blurred lines between fiction and military jargon. Some young recruits admitted joining the Army because of the A-Team. Recruiters even reported a noticeable spike in interest from teens citing the show. While the real military found the series unrealistic, they appreciated the positive portrayal of veterans. The Pentagon never officially endorsed the show, but they didn't condemn it either. Some Special Forces veterans praised the way the A-Team emphasized loyalty and ingenuity. One former Green Beret said the show got the camaraderie right, even if the missions were ridiculous. NBC received letters from veterans both praising and mocking the show's accuracy. Even the use of welding scenes and homemade gadgets was loosely inspired by real SERE tactics. Despite the fantasy tone, the core idea, ex-soldiers using skills for justice, resonated. Mr. T was once invited to a military base and received a standing ovation from real soldiers. The show became a favorite on Armed Forces Network around the world. Reruns aired in barracks and bases from Germany to Okinawa. For a fictional team, they had a real-world impact. And somewhere out there, a real A-Team might just be watching.